My name is William Sokol, and I'm the owner of the Sokol Law Firm. We've been in business for over 13 years, and we're a full-service real estate law firm. So we'll pretty much handle most of the real estate matters that are thrown at us. Obviously, we represent buyers and sellers in residential and small commercial transactions. We do a lot of contract reviews. We do many deeds for closings. We used to go to a lot of closings too. Obviously, with the pandemic, that changed, and a lot of our closings are by mail. But what our firm is really known for is what I'm here to present about today, and that is short sale transactions. And since we started keeping track, we've closed over 2,000 different short sale transactions. And a big part of my presentation is that I believe there are many more short sale closings to come. So why do I feel that way? Well, this chart represents one of those reasons. This chart shows the unemployment levels in the United States for the last 50 years. If you look carefully at the chart, you'll notice that for roughly the last 40 or 50 years, the unemployment numbers have been relatively stable. They've stayed under 500,000, with the exception of a few historical moments, like the stock market crash in 1980 and the financial crisis right before 2010. You can see the spikes above 500,000 there. Obviously, when you get to this year, the number skyrockets, and it skyrockets to a point where I can't even put a relevant chart up because the actual number is 65 million. New Jersey's over 1.76 million. And when you're dealing with this kind of historic level of unemployment, it really follows that there's going to be a record number of mortgage default too. And if we remember anything from last time, when there's a record number of mortgage defaults and a record number of foreclosures, it does lead to an increase in the rise in short sale transactions. So a lot of people will say, the government has passed all these programs to help us, right? The government has passed all these acts that are going to help the real estate market and prevent an influx in short sales and foreclosures. So I want to look at a couple of those programs that government has enacted and explain why I think they're insufficient to really help. The first one I want to touch on was New Jersey's extended grace period. Hopefully all you guys remember when this happened. So when the quarantine was first announced, New Jersey's governor formed a coalition with a number of mortgage companies to offer New Jersey residents an extended grace period. It was 90 days, right? And it was essentially at the very beginning of the mandated quarantine. The reason the extended grace period wasn't as helpful as it may seem, well, number one, it's over, right? I mean, that was only for the first 90 days of the quarantine, so that ended right before the summertime. So nobody can use it anymore. And also, not every lender participated in this extended grace period, right? I mean, the governor of New Jersey, again, look, it's a powerful position, but it's not powerful enough to force every mortgage company and every bank in the world to offer New Jersey residents an extended grace period. So it only worked for lenders who agreed to participate. So it didn't actually help as many people as it was intended to do. I mean, again, I'm sure it helped some people, but again, not enough to prevent what's coming. The CARES Act was passed shortly thereafter. And the CARES Act is the federal version of an extended grace period. One of the key provisions of the CARES Act was something known as mortgage forbearance, which I would imagine probably all 21 participants on the Zoom call have heard of in some shape or form. Forbearance is like an extended grace period, right? It's an agreement between you and your mortgage company, which allows you to not pay your mortgage for a certain period of time. During this period of time, there is no late fees, there is no credit damage, okay? When this agreed upon time period expires, you go back to paying your mortgage as usual, and the payments that you missed will be added to the end of your loan. So you won't have to make those missed payments until you try to sell your house, until you try to refinance your mortgage, or if you pay it off, right? Then those missed payments come due, okay? The problem with forbearance is that it didn't help everyone either. Under the CARES Act, only federally backed mortgages were required to offer forbearance to homeowners. If you had a non-federally backed mortgage, they may have offered something similar, but there's no promise that the terms are as favorable as a federal version of forbearance. And the biggest problem with forbearance, and the reason why most of these people could end up being our clients for short sales, is that the success of the forbearance program depends entirely on the homeowner's ability to go back to their original job or an equivalent job making as much money as they were before, right? So in order for forbearance to be successful, let's say you have a homeowner who lost their job. They get a forbearance from their mortgage company for 6 months. When that 6 months is up, they get their same job back. That person is great. They're going to be helped great. But what about all the other people who don't get their job back, or their spouse doesn't get their job back, or their business failed, or they take a job for less money? Those people can't go back to their original mortgage payment now, right? When the forbearance is over, they can't make their normal payment anymore. Those people are going to be the ones we're targeting for short sales, because those people are going to end up in default on their mortgages. And when the forbearance program is officially over for everybody, you're going to see a massive increase in mortgage defaults and short sales that will flow from it. The final program I want to talk about was the stimulus check that the government offered to people. And in fact, I hear there's maybe even a second one coming around. But here's the thing, the government's never going to give you enough money to pay your mortgage, right? I mean, the stimulus check that they gave might be enough for one payment, might be. And that's assuming you actually use it on your mortgage, right? How many people stuck in their house in quarantine are going to use that money to pay for their house? Not many. I mean, they're going to buy things for entertainment like iPads and iPhones and other things to keep themselves entertained. So the stimulus check, although again, a very nice thing to have, not going to be enough to save the real estate market from what's coming. So when the short sales come, if you've never done one before, I want to make sure everybody understands what a short sale transaction really is. So here's my definition of what a short sale is. It's a real estate transaction where the proceeds from the sale will be insufficient to cover the property owner's mortgage liens and closing costs. So in other words, you can't sell the house at a price that's enough to cover the mortgage and the closing costs, right? I mean, there's a more common term that you'll see people use. There's two common terms you'll see people use for this kind of situation. You hear people say that their property's underwater. You're going to hear somebody say that their property is upside down. What we're really talking about is a property that has negative equity, right? And I just put a numerical example for illustration purposes, right? You're dealing with a mortgage payoff of $200,000. You know you can't sell the house for more than $150,000. That leaves a $50,000 shortage. How many of your clients, I know you guys are muted, but how many of your clients have that $50,000? I got to imagine almost everybody on here shaking their head, right? Because it's highly unlikely that your client has that $50,000 to bring to closing. And that's what makes a short sale so nice, is that in a short sale, that $50,000 shortage that your client would need to bring to closing, it's going to get eaten by their mortgage company, right? Their mortgage company is going to eat that $50,000 deficiency, allowing our client to sell the property without bringing a penny to closing. Let's take a look at a real life example of how a short sale transaction might come to be from start to finish. This is a potential short sale candidate. We're going to call her Amanda. We'll name her after my wife. This is Amanda. Amanda is going through some sort of financial hardship. Maybe Amanda's getting divorced, or even better, let's say Amanda lost let's say her business failed, or she went out of business due to the COVID quarantines, okay? She is in trouble. She realizes because of her business failure and the quarantine that she can no longer afford to keep her home, okay? She's talked to her mortgage company. She's exhausted the forbearance. She realizes she can no longer afford her property. So now she's going to call a realtor, right? She's going to call one of you ladies and gentlemen. And you're going to go to Amanda's house, and you're going to have to break a bit of bad news to her, because you're going to have to tell her that she has to do a short sale. You're going to tell her that her property is underwater or upside down, or whatever term you want to use, and that she's going to need to do a short sale. Now, when you tell her that, she's going to have a ton of questions for you. Difficult questions. She's going to ask you, do I keep paying my mortgage if I'm doing a short sale? She's going to ask you if she's going to owe any money at closing. She may even start asking even more complex questions. She may start to ask whether there's going to be any negative tax implications for her, whether there's going to be any IRS taxation as a result of doing the short sale. These are the kinds of questions that you guys as agents never want to have to answer. The minute your client starts asking those questions about short sales, you got to have her call me, right? You got to have Amanda call me, because I can tell her that she should probably not pay her mortgage. I can tell her that she's very likely not going to owe any money at closing. And if she really wants to know, I can go into great detail about the IRS tax complications that come from doing short sales or foreclosures. But in addition to answering all those difficult questions, I also get to develop a relationship with her, let her know that we're working together, me and you, as a team in her time of need. I can manage her expectations and answer all her questions. I can even get out the paperwork to her that I'm going to need completed. The consultations between me and your sellers are essential for all those reasons and more. We really try to make the short sale process as easy as possible. And anybody who's worked in my office probably knows that. Don't overcomplicate short sales. Everybody tries to make them more difficult than they really are. And I know there's a lot of people involved in short sales. There's a lot of issues involved. I try to keep our process as simple as 1, 2, 3. Okay? Find the listing, sell it for what it's worth, send me the contract. That's all I need you guys to do. Find it, sell it, and send me the agreement of sale. Okay? We will take over the entire process from there. Once I have that agreement of sale, we will collect all the paperwork we need from the realtors and the seller. We will put a package together, send it into the mortgage companies, try and get it approved. And if we get it approved, we'll coordinate closing with everybody, do the transfer documents, and make sure the bank gets their money and their paperwork. Okay? But why use me at all? I'm making it sound so simple. Why use an attorney at all? Why not just do short sales on your own? I mean, after all, I know for a fact there are plenty of agents who still do. So here are the 3 big reasons why I feel you should use an attorney to process your short sale listings. Number 1 is no secret, right? Number 1, you probably all knew, the time factor. Short sales take a long time to process. They take months to process. They require you to be chained to your desk. They require hundreds of phone calls, hundreds of emails, hundreds of pages of paperwork. The average short sale file is like 6 inches thick, okay? Come to my office if you've never been here before. You'll see that everybody in my office is literally chained to their desk. They're texting people and emailing people, all while they're on hold with the bank. That is what's required to process short sales, right? You can't be out showing houses to potential clients because you're going to miss the phone call from the bank, right? You're not going to be in your office uploading documents that have a deadline, right? Trust me, your time is much better spent making commission selling houses, right? My staff get paid salaries to handle this stuff. Let them handle it. You also get to avoid being sued. So I'm friends with a lot of insurance attorneys who work for errors and emissions companies, which insure realtors, right? And they always tell me that one of the biggest reasons realtors get sued is the unauthorized practice of law, right? Now, I'm not saying that doing your own short sales makes you a lawyer, right? Certainly, faxing paperwork and making phone calls doesn't change you into a lawyer, right? But there are certain parts of a short sale that are, especially the questions a client begins to ask about paying their mortgage and owing money and the IRS. Listen, I've seen realtors put in writing for people to stop paying their mortgage. I've seen realtors put in writing that the client's going to have no tax consequences, right? To me, that's just crazy. It's just crazy, right? That is my job. Let me handle that for you so that you don't ever have to worry about being sued by your clients. And the best part about using us for your short sales anyway, is that there's no charge for our services, right? My fee gets paid by the seller's mortgage company. So I don't charge the seller directly. I don't charge the buyer. I don't take any commission. I get paid by the bank, and I only get approved if it closes. So I have every incentive to work as hard as humanly possible to get your transactions done. Even when you are working with a firm like ours for short sales, there are certain things that I want you to look out for. There are certain things that you're going to see that are going to make a short sale more difficult than it needs to be. Number one, you need to watch out for uncooperative sellers. This is more of a commandment than a rule. That's how serious it is. Short sales are very document intensive. I'm going to need the seller's bank statements and pay stubs, tax returns, applications. If they're not going to give me that stuff, the short sale is never going to go anywhere and the file's going to die, right? If the seller's not going to cooperate, they just can't do a short sale, period. The thing is that most homeowners, if they've gone through the trouble of listing the property with you, and they've gone through the trouble of consulting with me, it's unlikely they're not going to cooperate when we ask them to, right? They're most likely going to cooperate. But one thing you want to watch out for is a short sale that comes from a divorce, right? A lot of short sales come from divorces. And it makes perfect sense because in most cases, you're going from two incomes to one. It's a massive decrease in your income, right? So you'll see quite a few short sales coming from divorces. When you're dealing with a divorced short sale, there's a question you have to ask right away. You need to find out which of the spouses are borrowers on the mortgage. Okay, I don't care about who's in title, although you should, because whoever's in title has to sign the listing in the contract. I'm concerned with who is a borrower on the loan. A borrower, a co-borrower, a joint borrower, a co-signer. I don't care what term you use. I'm looking for people who signed the promissory note, right? Borrowers. And the reason that's important is because all borrowers on the loan need to cooperate with the short sale process. So even if you have a client who gets divorced and quit claims her husband off, so he's not entitled, and the judge awards the property all to her, and he moves across the country and gets remarried. If he was a borrower on that mortgage, he's got to cooperate in a short sale. I don't care about the judge's order. I don't care about the quitclaim deed. I don't care that he's remarried in California. I need his bank statements, I need his tax returns, and I need his pay stubs. And if he's MIA or he's not going to cooperate, you can't take the short sale listing. Okay? So always remember when you take a short sale listing from a divorce to watch out for who the actual borrowers are. You also need to watch out for sellers who have unrealistic expectations. The first thing you're going to find is that if the seller's not paying their mortgage, they're essentially living for free. If they plan on living there forever for free, they're not good short sale candidates, right? They're going to have to leave at some point, right? They're going to have to leave when the short sale's approved and closing gets scheduled. So if we have a short sale seller who's insistent on living there for over a year or something insane like that, they're not good short sale candidates. And the same can be said for sellers who demand money for doing the short sale. I know that might sound crazy, but I've had sellers tell me that in order for them to do the short sale, they want to get paid for it. The seller's compensation in a short sale is the forgiven and canceled debt. You got to remember something. My office is making $50, $60, $100,000 literally disappear into thin air. That is the seller's compensation, and they should be grateful for it. But let's be real for a second, right? The seller can't use that canceled debt for a security deposit on a rental. They can't use that money to move. So I get that, and so do mortgage companies. So it's not unusual for the seller in a short sale to maybe get a few $1,000s for relocation incentive at closing. And we'll always try and get it for all of our clients. But nobody can ever promise the homeowner the money. Don't ever promise the homeowner the relocation incentive, because I've had realtors do that in the past. And when the bank rejects the request, the seller refuses to leave, putting us all in a bad position. So never promise a seller money for doing a short sale. Just let them know the attorney will do his best. You also have to watch out for certain buyers. Certain buyers aren't cut out to be buying short sales. The first buyers I want you to watch out for are the lowball buyers. the buyers who intend to steal the property at a ridiculously low price. You might remember my slide from a few moments ago. I said to keep the short sale process simple, right? Find the listing, sell it for fair market value, send me the agreement of sale. Those are my 3 steps, okay? Don't sell the property for nothing. Don't give it away. If you do, the mortgage company in most cases is going to deny the short sale. Okay, you got to remember, when you're doing a short sale, the seller's mortgage company is taking a loss. So their goal is to minimize the amount of loss they're going to have by ensuring the property is sold at the highest possible price. A buyer who is lowballing their offer is intending to get the house for as low as possible. The difference in goals between the bank and that kind of buyer are too far apart to reconcile, and most of the time those short sales are going to fall through. You also want to watch out for buyers who need to close too soon. Remember, the seller wants to live there forever, right? Because they're living there for free. The buyer wants to move in tomorrow. So if we have buyers for our short sales that sold their home and are now homeless, or have a lease that's going to expire in a month, or somebody who we put under contract in August and they expect to be in the school system in September. These are terrible buyers for short sales because they're putting unrealistic time crunches on the processing time, and it's either going to cause the transaction to fall apart or it's going to put too much stress on the transaction entirely. You need to watch out for buyers who have time constraints. Short sales are going to take a long time. We need buyers who can wait. The last thing you want to watch out for with buyers is buyers who need too much closing cost assistance, right? Buyers who need too much of a concession for their closing costs. I understand that it's probably fairly standard to do, 6% for a seller concession, and then you bump the price up by 6% so that the seller doesn't realize any difference. Can't do that in a short sale, right? Because in a short sale, a mortgage company is paying that assist, not the seller themselves. There are lots of rules, complex rules, regarding what kind of concessions will be approved for buyer closing costs. And I certainly encourage everybody on this call to contact me directly for any particular deal you're working on to determine what the correct assist should be. But for the purposes of this introductory presentation, the number I want you to remember is 3%. Try not to go over 3% for a seller's assist in a short sale. There's still no guarantee I'll get 3% approved, but I will get 3% approved more often than not. You go higher than that, you're going to jeopardize the transaction. The last thing I want you to watch out for is sheriff sale dates. In case anybody's not familiar with this term, a sheriff sale is the end of the foreclosure process. It's where the property is auctioned and the bank uses the money to reimburse themselves for the loss. Okay. Right now, you're not seeing many sheriff sales because of the CARES Act. So if you're seeing any, it's probably on vacant properties or commercial properties. But when forbearance ends and the CARES Act is over and foreclosures start to come back again and the floodgates open, there are going to be a lot of sheriff sales. I'm not telling you to avoid clients who have scheduled sheriff sale dates. I'm just warning you now that if you guys send me a file and there is a scheduled sheriff sale date, the chances of success are going to be greatly reduced. That's all. So what can you do to help the transaction, right? So we're working together on a short sale. We just went over some of the things to avoid. What are some of the things you should do to give yourself a better chance of success in your short sale? I've mentioned this quite a few times already because I really do feel like it is that important, but selling the property for fair market value is really the key to success in short sales, right? Don't list the property too high, right? You're just going to end up wasting your time. If you have one of those clients who insists on overlisting the house, see if they'll have a conversation with me. Maybe I can change their mind, which I've done many times in the past. On the other end of the spectrum, don't accept the lowball offers that I mentioned before, right? You want to list the property for what you feel is fair market value, and then lower it every 21 days until you start getting a solid offer, until you start getting solid offers on the property. Okay, that is directly from Fannie Mae. That is Fannie Mae's servicing guideline. So if it's good enough for them, good enough for me. Second thing you can do, in every short sale transaction, the seller's mortgage company is going to do some type of valuation to the property. It may be an actual full-blown appraisal. It may be something called a BPO or broker price opinion. Either way, if they request interior access, they're going to contact you, or they'll contact me and we'll contact you. It's very tempting to say the lockbox combo is 1, 2, 3, have a nice day. That's certainly the easy way to do it. But here's what I want you to do. Here's a preferred way to do it. Rather than giving the lockbox combo, meet them at the property. I realize that we're in the middle of a pandemic, so that may not be practical for everybody. But at some point, this will go away, and you can start going back to meeting people face to face. I want you to go to the valuation. I want you to bring a copy of the contract. I want you to bring a CMA or comps, whatever you have. I want you to bring repair estimates if you have them. And I want you to bring a box of donuts, right? And I want you to give all this stuff to the person doing the valuation. Maybe they tell you they can't take any of it and you wasted your time. Fine. Maybe they take everything and they bring the appraisal in exactly where we need it to be. You never know. It's an opportunity that you'll have to speak with somebody face to face, somebody who's going to have an integral role in our short sale, somebody who's going to go back to Bank of America or Wells Fargo and tell them the property is worth a certain amount. I want you to be there to exert as much influence on this person as you can. And then the last thing I want you to do is I want you to push the title companies that you guys are comfortable working with. You guys may have an in-house title company, and if you do, awesome, take advantage of them. And if you don't, I want you guys to use who you would normally use. And the reason that's important is because I need to work with local title companies that I've worked with in the past. Okay, that's important to me. It's important because when we're working with title companies we know, we're able to obtain the title commitment sooner, and we're able to have less problems in getting to closing. Now, I know we're on the selling side, so we don't get to choose what title company is used. And a lot of times the buyer or buyer's agent or buyer's attorney is going to make sure they pick one that they like. However, it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to say to the buyer's agent, hey, look, the attorney really likes title company X. Can we use them? It's important to him. You'd be surprised how many agents and how many attorneys will yield to that and say, you know what? I don't know anything about short sales. This guy's an expert. I'm going to roll with whatever he says. You'd be surprised. I mean, we could probably control title on about half of our deals. So we definitely want to push our title companies as much as we can. So when the short sales do come, what are some of the things our clients are going to have to deal with? You know, what are the legal ramifications of doing a short sale? So I go over these legal ramifications. Again, not because I want you, ladies and gentlemen, giving this advice to the clients. I go over this for two reasons. One, I feel like if you're going to do something, whatever it is, you should know as much about what you're doing as possible. So if you're going to be doing short sales, even though you're not giving this advice out, I feel like it's important to know these things. But there's also key agent takeaways from each of these items. So I'm going to explain each of these legal ramifications, and then I'm going to explain the key agent takeaway, the thing I want you to remember about each. So when our clients are doing short sales, their credit ends up getting damaged. Generally speaking, they're not getting a mortgage for 2 to 3 years until after the short sale closes. I know that there are exceptions. I know there are other programs out there. This is just a general consideration. The key agent takeaway for this is that you may be on a listing and the homeowner may say to you, yeah, look, I'm going to do the short sale with you. And then right after we close, let's go house hunting. I'm going to buy a house right after. You might say, okay, sure, but you can't. It's a problem. They're not going to be able to buy right after the short sale. So if you're coming across a client who says that, they should contact my office, because what I may be able to do for them is put them through a program where they buy first, with you, of course, buy first, move in, and then do the short sale. Obviously, they have to qualify for certain things, but I've successfully put many clients through a program like that. It's all about knowing your client's expectations and coming up with a program that fits for them. So if you come across a client who plans on buying right after the short sale, we need to have a 3-way conversation. Second thing you need to know about is debt forgiveness. Most people incorrectly assume that when you do a short sale, the mortgage company is going to forgive all of the outstanding debt. Most short sales, 99%, will have that result, right? 99% of my clients, when the short sale is over, will not owe anything to their mortgage company, which is the way it should be. But there are exceptions to that rule. I've highlighted 3 of them: TD Bank, Citizens Bank, and USDA mortgages. When you're dealing with those 3, the chances of getting the balance forgiven is not 99% anymore. Now it's like 20 or 30%. TD Bank loves to hold people responsible for the debt. They love it, right? They will very rarely let people off the hook for doing a short sale. Citizens Bank's a little more generous, but they may ask the homeowner to contribute in some form. So they may ask the homeowner to bring some money. They may ask the homeowner to pay some money after closing. That's Citizens Bank thing. USDA mortgages are crazy. With a USDA mortgage, they'll approve your short sale, right? They approve it, and they tell you to go to closing. When closing is over, then you apply for the debt forgiveness. So I have to counsel my clients and tell them, after you go to closing, you may still owe money, right? Makes my job very difficult. But here's the thing. It's all about managing expectations from the beginning. If you go on a listing appointment and they show you a mortgage statement from TD Bank or a USDA loan, it should raise a red flag right away and say, holy crap, this guy's got to call Bill. Because I need to make sure they're going to be okay with what the possible outcomes are going to be before we even get started, right? The worst thing you can do, trust me, is take a TD Bank short sale on. Don't say anything to anybody. And then when it gets approved, 3 days before closing, the homeowner now realizes he's got to owe $70,000 when closing's over. Not a good thing, right? It's all about planning and managing expectations. The third thing I want to talk about are the tax consequences of doing a short sale. A short sale could have a massive tax consequence. And that tax consequence comes from the fact that the IRS considers canceled debt to be taxable income. When a financial institution cancels money that you owe them, that canceled money becomes income to you. The same way your commission is income to you. So using my hypothetical example from earlier, if we have a client who owes Bank of America 200 grand and we do a short sale for 150, even though I get the bank to eat that $50,000 difference, the IRS is now going to try and tax the homeowner on it. If you've never heard that concept before, it should shock you as something that's completely and fundamentally unfair, because it is. You're basically being taxed on phantom income, it's called. The good news for our clients is that almost all of them are never going to pay the IRS a penny. And the reason for that is that the IRS realizes how unfair this rule is, and they've historically had 3 large exceptions. The first exception, which has been around since 2008, would exclude a principal residence from this tax. So our clients who have done short sales on their principal residence won't have to deal with paying tax on the canceled debt. There's also an exception for bankruptcy clients. There's also an exception for clients who have who are considered insolvent, right? And insolvency is just another word of saying somebody has more debt than assets in their life. And there's a calculation involved, but trust me, most of our clients would satisfy the test for insolvency. So only a handful of my 2,500 plus clients have ever paid the IRS the money. And trust me when I tell you, the clients who did probably deserve to do so. Again, the key takeaway here. The key takeaway for agents is that this tax also applies to foreclosures and deed in lieu of foreclosures. So if you're ever on a listing and the homeowner, you tell the homeowner they got to do a short sale, and they tell you that they don't want to because of the tax. They might say, hey, look, my cousin, my aunt, my coworker did a short sale and they ended up owing the IRS all this money. I'm not doing a short sale. Have a nice day. And then they tell you they're just gonna mail their keys back to the bank and move down south. Right? You hear that all the time. Mail the keys to the bank, move to Florida. that should raise a red flag to you right away, because that homeowner is planning on letting it go to foreclosure to avoid the tax. At that point, you might want to say, look, no pressure. Why don't you call Bill Sokol's office? He's an attorney that people in my office have worked with for a number of years. Consultation is free. I think that if you talk to him, you're going to find out that if you mail your keys back to the bank and move to Florida, you're still going to have to pay the tax. And I can talk to those people and let them know that the short sale is still the best way to go. This way you don't lose the listing. That is the takeaway I want you to remember from the tax consequence. So just to summarize what we've gone over in our short sale presentation, my firm handles lots of short sales. It's pretty much all I do all day long. We have the staff and we have the expertise to service all your files. And you got to remember, when you're dealing with short sales, you're not just talking about shorting a mortgage, right? There are almost always going to be a second mortgage or a home equity line of credit or a civil judgment or a child support judgment or an IRS lien or an NJ tax lien. These are things we know how to deal with. We deal with them on a daily basis. So we have the expertise to handle some of the complex matters. Short sales are going to be coming back. I mean, look, listen, as far as I'm concerned, they never went away. I mean, we're still doing, don't get me wrong, we're doing less, but we're still closing plenty of short sales, and it's 2020, right? The financial crisis has been over for 8 years, 9 years, and we're still handling tons of short sales. So they're going to come back. I mean, if you look at the quarantine, the unprecedented levels of unemployment, the business failure, the government failure. I didn't even touch on the fact that tenants don't have to pay rent, but landlords still have to pay their mortgage. How's that going to end, right? So there's going to be a massive increase in mortgage defaults. And if 2008 is any history lesson, that rise in defaults is going to lead to an increase in short sales. Look, I understand in certain areas, there's bidding wars and people are paying over appraised value. And you have your New Yorkers moving down the shore and paying $9 million for a $200,000 house. I get it. But when people start to default on their mortgage, remember, they're eating into whatever equity they may have, right? Every month you don't pay, your balance goes up by that missed payment. Every quarter you don't pay, your balance goes up when they disperse your taxes. Any equity people are going to have is going to be eaten by them defaulting in the mortgage. So keep that in mind. Keep the procedure as simple as possible. Find the short sale listing, sell it for fair market value, send me the contract, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Don't handle them on your own. I know plenty of realtors love that control factor. They get to sit there and call the bank every day until they get an answer. Doesn't need to work that way. Calling the bank every day isn't necessarily a good tactic. Okay? Spend your time getting the listings, right? Spend your time actually finding the short sale listings, not working on them. When you're doing short sales, watch for those pitfalls, right? Avoid the uncooperative sellers. Avoid the problematic buyers. Watch for the sheriff sale dates. And then follow my tips, right? Sell it for what it's worth. Attend the valuation. Promote your title company. When you do these things, you will find that more short sales close than don't close. You've probably heard, in fact, some of you have probably said, I hate short sales, they never close. If they never close, think about how I get paid, right? I get paid by the bank and only if I'm successful. Right now, I have 2 paralegals and an attorney that work for me. At different times, I've had 7 people working for me. How would I stay in business, paying them salaries and paying myself if they didn't close? Of course they close, right? Just watch for the pitfalls, follow my tips, and you'll find out that more close than don't. And as an added bonus, you'll find out that when you're helping people in distress, not only is it satisfying, you should see some of the emails and look at my Google reviews. People are so genuinely happy and they feel blessed that we were able to help them. So it's satisfying to help people in need, but you're also, from a business standpoint, you're also gaining a client for life, especially you guys as the realtor. Because you're helping people in distress. They're certainly going to use you again when they fix their credit and they go to buy. But they're also going to refer you to their neighbor who's in foreclosure and all their coworkers who didn't get their job back or were furloughed. So it's going to be a great referral source for you as well, in addition to getting the satisfaction from helping people. So that is my short sale presentation for 2020. Thanks everybody for attending. I'm going to unmute everybody and I'll stick around in case anybody has any questions. And if anybody wants a copy of this presentation, I have a PDF. I can email to you. My email's on here. Just shoot me a quick request. Or anybody from your office, an admin or something, can ask me and they'll send it to everybody. But let me try and unmute everybody now. Hopefully it works. And I'll stick around for questions.
Bill, I had a question.
Sure.
When we do send you the package, would you prefer us to send the financials and things from the sellers or let you handle that?
That's completely up to you. So again, we pride ourselves in making the process as easy as possible, right? So I don't want to torture my agents and make them do the paperwork collection for me, right? So but some agents, to make sure their sellers are serious, will collect the paperwork in advance, right? Some realtors have been burned where they've taken the listing, they've sold the house, and then the seller refuses to provide paperwork. Well, that realtor says, fool me once, but it's not going to happen again. So what they do is they collect the paperwork just to make sure the seller is serious. Again, it's a matter of your personal preference. It doesn't make a difference to me. We're more than happy to collect it ourselves if we have to.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you. And Raymond asked a question in the group chat. He wanted to know what the typical time frame is to close a short sale. So and again, this is typical. This isn't something that you'll see on every file, but from the moment I send it to the bank, I'll probably know myself. Like I'll know whether it's going to be approved, usually in about 60 days. Right now, that's nothing legal and nothing official, but you kind of get a feeling for whether it's going to be approved or not based on what the bank tells you. Usually the appraisal's back by then, so you kind of have a feeling. But most of them are approved and closed, I'll say 90 to 120 days.
Thanks, Bill.
You got it. Anybody else? Well, look, guys, thanks again. Listen, I'm easy to get in contact with. I know only my email's on here. I should probably put all my information, but you guys can call me, you can email me, you can text me. Anything you guys need, I'm easy to find, easy to get a hold of. So, keep me in mind as your go-to guy for anything. Even if you have the buyer on a short sale and another attorney is representing the seller, and you want to pick my brain for a second, I'm happy to let you do that. So, thanks again, everybody.